I don't I really don't even know what to say anymore. Now Damon Williams is apparently leaning towards coming back to Washington.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast, a special emergency edition, I might add. Thank you for making, I'm Roman Tomashoff. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. That wonderful gentleman over there is Alex Katson. He writes with me over there. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. And just a quick reminder to all you everydayers out there, wherever you get this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever that might be, please make sure to click that subscribe button, click that little bell as well, so you never miss when we go live just like this. And if you're on the audio only side of things, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, as it does help the show out a lot. Now, Alex, we need to clear up two things here. One, this is as emergency as it gets. You are still at your office. And we were like, whoa, what is going on here? Because we're sitting here, we're watching College Game Day. You're getting ready to go to the women's basketball game against Michigan State for UW. And we're watching the College Game Day, and Pete Thamel pops on there, and he said, Damon Williams is now reportedly leaning towards coming back to Washington, and I almost dropped my laptop.
Yeah, I tweeted it out also, but if this is what happens, nothing will ever surprise me ever again. That's this seems like the most unlikely outcome of all of the possible things that could have happened for so many different reasons, which I'm sure we'll get into, but it really just theoretically, right? I guess this has always been on the table, and we'll talk about, kind of the whole saga and everything. We've been publishing a lot of stuff on Huskies Wire about this entire saga, but and I'm sure we'll talk about that, but Washington has been very consistent in saying that they want him to be the quarterback in 2026. That's part of why they're digging their heels in so much on this contract. But even though theoretically that was a possibility this entire time, it has never felt like over the last 72 hours that this was something that was on the table whatsoever.
No, it wasn't in any way, shape, or form. And that's that's one of the reasons that I was so stunned, because just the way that the exit happened and the way everybody was blindsided. Our all everydayers out there, just a couple hours ago, we're listening to me and our good buddy Spencer McLaughlin talk about how his agent dropped him. And then there's the whole Cordell Landers thing with him, trying to say he's not involved, posting stuff that shows that he very clearly was involved in some capacity. That's this weird saga with all of this as well. I've seen a lot of people just there in the comments right here and on Twitter, in our insider program, asking what is going on. And that's the #1 thing here, is it doesn't feel like anybody really has a good grasp of this outside of his inner circle, because I think the one thing that really stands out to me is I think that even after obtaining legal counsel earlier today, I think that maybe, as we've just seen lawyers weigh in left and right and more details of this contract start to come out, that there's part of me that just sits here and thinks, I think that not only was there maybe bad advice, which I know you and I talked about right before we hit record, but also they looked at the case and said, oh man, this is not just an uphill climb. There's baby oil on these stairs as we try to climb up these stairs.
Yeah, so the Seattle Times published a thing earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, talking to NIL attorney Mitt Winter, and then NIL attorney Tom Mars quote tweeted that story, and Mitt Winter's comments on that story that he also made on social media, and basically said this seems like a pretty cut and dry lawsuit based on the facts that we have available. And so I do wonder if after retaining legal counsel and everything, Damon Williams' camp kind of realized or we're told maybe, you're not going to win this. You don't have a path forward. The path forward is going back. The path forward is trying to repair this and just going back and trying to smooth everything over. Because if you try to do something else about this, it's not going to go the way that you think it will. And so I do think that that's a distinct possibility, right? Is that is what happened, but it still just feels so like it's insane that we have gotten to this point. Like it's insane that this is the situation, like this is the way that the situation has gone. And like you said, like none of us really know what's happening at this point. Like it's a developing situation, obviously. Like Pete Thamel just said this on ESPN 15 minutes ago. And we're all sort of trying to scramble and figure out the answers kind of in real time because all of this is happening so quickly, and like all of it has been happening so quickly. The entire thing since Tuesday night has been happening this quickly, and so the last 36, 48 hours, I know both of us have been on the phone pretty much constantly trying to be like, what is happening? Like what is going on? What is any of this? What does this part of it mean? What does this part of it mean? And now we're at the point where it's like, oh well, maybe like none of that mattered because like someone has like gotten into his camp and basically knocked some sense in them and been like, you guys don't have a argument here. Like you don't have a path.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm so sorry. I just cracked up because a text from my dad pops up on my screen and it just says, "What?"
Yeah,
yeah. That's exactly where we all are. Like it's not just you or me or any of our wonderful colleagues that we work with that cover the UW beat. It's everyone at this point. Obviously this has all been slimy from the Lane Kiffin and the LSU side of things as well. And I feel like this is something that needs to be brought up because there were rumors that he was on that campus. I personally, I know you and I have talked about this privately, but like, I never saw anything publicly, like really come out about that, but that was one of the rumors that went along with all of that as well. And like, that's its own crazy angle, right? Like,
do you want me to talk about that part of it? Because I can talk a little bit about. So I reported on Tuesday night after it was announced that Demond was going to be putting his name into the portal. Obviously, then everything with Washington refusing to put his name in and everything happened. But I reported on Tuesday night that like I was told by a source that LSU was the destination in mind when he announced that he was going to enter the portal, and Pete Thamel announced that he was going to enter with a do not contact tag, which generally means that you know where you're going already. Like you, I saw the rumors that he was already on campus at LSU. Obviously, we know that like he wasn't where the rest of the team was on Tuesday night, because all of the team was in one place very conveniently, and he was not. And so we know that he wasn't there, but there's nothing that we've been able to confirm about where he was necessarily. Yes. Obviously, I've seen those rumors too about the fact that he was on campus at LSU. I wasn't able to confirm those rumors with anybody that would have knowledge of the situation. And so as of right now, like those are just rumors, right? But if that was the case, the thing about this also is that if Demond took a visit to LSU before he was officially in the transfer portal, because again, like by the time he posted on Instagram that he was going into the portal, he had not filed any compliance paperwork with the University of Washington. So Washington had nothing to even put in, even if they wanted to put him in the portal, or even if they were obligated to put him in the portal. And so he was not in the portal at that point. If he was at LSU before that, or before Washington did put in his paperwork, which it sounds like he completed maybe on Wednesday morning based on the way that the reporting changed. If he was at LSU before Washington put his name into the portal, if he enrolled at LSU, the NCAA technically, and like whether or not this would be enforced is a different contention, right? Because the NCAA has had an enforcement problem repeatedly. But if
NCAA has a problem, no.
Right. But if he did enroll at LSU, technically, if UW was able to prove that evidence of tampering, prove that he was on campus before he was officially in the portal, then the NCAA penalty for that is that LSU is barred from further recruiting him any further, and they are barred from having him on their roster. He is immediately ineligible if he were to enroll at LSU. And that's important because the way that everybody has been talking about this, right, is like, oh, well, like, if Washington won't put his name in the portal, it's the same way that the Xavier Lucas situation was last year at Wisconsin. He'll just drop out of school and then re-enroll at the school he wants to go to. But if this is what happened, he can't enroll at LSU and play football there. He can't play at LSU if this is found to be true and this is the penalty that comes down. And if it doesn't come down until way later, right, then like LSU has to vacate all of those games because they were playing a ineligible player the entire season, right? And so they have to vacate that entire year, basically, right? If it were to take a year to fully like bear that investigation. And so I think you put all that together, right? And it's like, okay, well, it sounds like if that is what happened, right? And if whether he was on campus or if he wasn't, right? Like UW repeatedly, like multiple reports have said that UW feels like they have evidence that some sort of tampering occurred, and they're submitting that evidence to the Big Ten and the NCAA. If they're able to prove that, Damon does not have a choice in this matter, really. Um, Other than you don't get to play football this season. Like if you want to play, you have to play at Washington. If you're okay with not playing, go wherever you were going to go. But essentially, those are his two choices at this point. And I think that his legal counsel that he retained this morning may have told him those are your two choices.
And let's say that this Washington thing does wind up being the choice and it comes to fruition. I don't think that's going to go over very well with the roster. And we'll get to that right after a message from our good friends over at Rocket Money. Let's be real, managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who has time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That's where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower bills so you can grow your savings. I love how it tracks all my subscriptions and lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers, which is just the worst thing for everyone possible. Rocket Money makes it so simple. If you want to sign up, you can let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. One more time, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So Alex, we alluded to this a minute ago. All of this comes out on Tuesday while basically the entire rest of the team and the coaching staff is at the celebration of life for Mia Hammett, the women's soccer player who unfortunately passed away due to losing her battle with kidney cancer in November. And that in and of itself is part of this. Like I personally don't think that it should be, because I talked about this with our buddy Jake Butt on a show yesterday, where like it's maybe just unfortunate timing, bad PR, whatever it is. But that is something that matters a lot in this situation because of how that has just sent out ripple effects throughout the university, not just the situation in and of itself, right? With both the men's and the women's soccer team, how they performed in the NCAA playoffs. It's just something that has touched everyone throughout the UW community. And that in and of itself does say a lot. And you have to imagine, with everything that has transpired in these last couple of days, social media posts from other players that were in the transfer portal talking about sending their support for Damon, not guys like, Jonah Coleman and Denzel Boston who are like, oh man, they're on their way out the door, different things like that. Like Bryce Butler is one who has since deleted the post, but it was certainly noteworthy at the time. And I've seen a whole lot of fans circulating that on social media too. These are all things that matter a lot. And like, how do you feel like, for example, the guys that are blocking for him are going to feel about a situation like that, where it's, hey man, you turned your back on us in the worst way possible. And yeah, if you're coming back because, you got bad advice and you weren't going to make that, whatever number it was, $6 million, like it's just an even worse look.
Yeah, and like you said, like this is a bad enough situation without everything that happened on Tuesday, right? Like it's bad enough that this is happening in the first place. But I think that like the fact that now the reporting is that Damon is leaning towards coming back, Washington is leaning towards accepting him back on campus, like this community has been so shaken and brought together by the Mia Hammett situation. And for the entire team and the entire staff to find out via Instagram while they're at this celebration of Mia's life that Damon is planning on entering the portal, when Damon was a captain of this team, has been a pillar of the community the 2 years that he's been here, like that is not going to go away quietly. Like that's not something.
Do you mind if I stop you real fast? I'm sorry, because I think that because I agree with everything you're saying, and it's a great point, but I think it needs to go a step further. because you make a whole lot of great points, but there is one name who we haven't said yet that matters more than all of that in this, in my opinion, and that's Jedd Fisch. Because how Jedd Fisch has talked about Demond Williams since the moment he signed at Washington, even before that, from how Jedd Fisch was talking about him at Arizona. Like he said it before he makes his first start. Hey, this guy is the future face of Washington football. And every single thing that Jedd Fisch has done has been to build a program around Demond Williams. And it's propping him up. He's going on Rich Eisen and Good Morning Football. And hey, we got a kid who's going to be in New York one day as a Heisman finalist. He's going to be, a high level NFL draft pick. I can't wait to watch him at the NFL Combine. I remember him saying that on the Rich Eisen show back in like February of last year. And those are all things that matter. And the fact that they were represented by the same agent. And then, I'm sure that, these two parties have just had a lot of mutual interaction in terms of, all right, you want to go to the NFL. I think this is a way you can do that. I think this is something that'll be really beneficial for you. And then just turn around and stab Jedd Fisch and his family in the back like that. This is without even mentioning everything his wife has been saying in the Instagram comments, which is its own, interesting twist on all of this. But like, that's all something that on top of the team and the program and the locker room, that matters so much in all of this, because I really can't imagine Jedd Fisch just being able to be like, yeah, you're really talented. All right, I can get over this and we can work together. Like that's something that is going to matter a lot. Like next time we get to talk to Jedd publicly, I can't wait to hear what he's going to say about something like this.
Right. So shout out to Cascadia Collectibles in the YouTube comments who pointed out Demond has now posted on Instagram that he is returning next season.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so we're in the middle.
His statement a couple of minutes ago, after thoughtful reflection with my family, I'm excited to announce that I will continue my football journey at the University of Washington. I'm deeply grateful to my coaches, teammates, and everyone in the program for fostering an environment where I can thrive both as an athlete and as an individual. Okay. I'm fully committed and focused on contributing to what we are building. Additionally, I apologize that the timing of these events coincided with the celebration of life for Mia Hammond, a beloved member of our university community. I never intended to call attention away from such an important moment. I'm excited to reunite with my teammates and to lead the University of Washington to success in the 2026 season and beyond. Go Huskies. So he is coming back now.
Right. Okay. So this is official. Yeah.
Right. So.
I cut you off. Please continue.
Right. So we're here now. We're here now, and he's going to be back. And so, look, I do think that like the way that Jedd has always talked about Demond, like I think like that always informed the way that Washington was going to handle the situation.
Yeah.
When Demond seemed like he was going to leave, right? Because like Jedd Fisch has built this entire program since he arrived at Washington around Demond Williams and what the future could look like with him at quarterback. And they have never been in a position where they are like ready to think about what life after Demond Williams looks like. They're not concerned with that until at least after next season, right? But probably after two seasons more here on Montlake. And so, for all of that to happen, and now like, now the situation is just as messy, right? Because now it's like, okay, like, yes, there's an apology section in there about the whole thing with me and everything. But like, again, like I was saying earlier, like that part of it is not going to go away quietly. People are not going to forget that that's the timing of this, that's what happened. Like, we're going to, like, if Demond is going to be the starting quarterback of this team, they're going to have to make him available to the media, to you and me and to the rest of the media. He's going to have to answer some of those questions. like he's like, it's going to come up. Jedd is going to have to answer some of those questions. His teammates are going to have to answer those questions about like, hey, like, what has it been like to, take it? Like, what has the process been like of taking him back and like, and reintegrating him into the team? Like, it's just like, it's a horrible situation for everybody involved. And most of that is on Demond Williams.
Yes,
like
I agree.
Like this is not like. Listen, I know that some people, on the internet, like as this has been happening, have been saying, like, oh well, like this is just the way that the sport works now. Like Washington should just let him go. Like, what do you mean? Like, okay, sure, like fine, like whatever. He signed a contract. Like what? But like, come on. Like this is just the way that the sport works. Get with the time. Like, I get all of that. That's fine. But like, the university is not at fault for what has occurred here. Like,
so yeah, this is okay. So it was also reposted by his legal counsel now as well. Someone just sent me that as we're just continuing on with whatever this situation is and is going to be, where I think that just kind of lends credence to something we were talking about a couple minutes ago. Yeah, this is not a battle you're going to win. And I goes back to exactly what you were just saying of like what I feel like the only way to talk about this is they had to sit down, because I think that there is no coincidence that the fact that all of this has happened in the last 6 to 8 hours is something that, like, again, since he did hire his lawyer, these are all things that matter greatly in this discussion, because I'm sure that was something that they had to sit down and talk about. And I think that, to go back to another thing that you were mentioning a minute ago, as like, I can't believe this is all happening. And this is just how this information is all coming out. I'm glad it all happened while we were on the air at the very least, but
right.
Yeah. Right. But I think that one of the biggest things with this is whoever it was that was in his circle, that was the one that said, hey, this is a really good idea. You should do that. How did you not go through the simplest process of at least reading the contract? And yeah, that's speculation on my part, but with all of the different clauses that UW put in there that are, or not even UW, that are just standard in the Big Ten with a lot of these revenue share agreements as well. How do you not just simply read that?
Yeah, like it, and look, the contract is written strangely, right? And like this was in the story that I wrote on Huskies Wire on Wednesday, that there's an NCAA bylaw that says if a player submits written notification of transfer as well as completes an educational module presented to them by the NCAA, that a university is liable to put their name into the transfer portal within 2 business days of that occurring.
Yeah.
The contract that Damon Williams signed, according to Pete Thamel and Ross Dellinger's reporting and all these people that have been reporting on this situation, has a clause in it that says that Washington is not liable to put you in the transfer portal now that you have signed this contract. Those two things cannot coexist.
Right.
It is not possible for both of those things to be true. You can't have an NCAA bylaw that says you have to put me in the portal if I say I want to transfer, and have a contract that says you can't transfer. There has to be a middle point that we meet at here. And so I do still think that even though all of this has happened, right, and even though Damon is going to come back now, and so maybe that smooths over, the legal side of the situation, I do still think that, like, this is still like we're going to talk about this as a landmark moment in college football, because like this is the case that people are going to look at and say, like, there has to be collective bargaining in college football, in college sports, because this cannot continue to happen. Like the more that this happens, like it's only going to get worse. This is only going to keep happening. This has already happened a few times. There's already been, 3 lawsuits filed against former players that have been of similar situations, right? That Damon Williams is now in. But this is only going to keep happening because there's no rules. The NCAA has no rules for any of this. Like we did all of this too quickly, and now there's no rules about anything. And now, we have the revenue sharing agreement, and so now there are maybe more binding contracts. But in order to have a binding contract and a collective bargaining agreement, you have to agree that college football players are employees.
Yeah.
And conferences have been very unwilling to recognize that that is true, right? Conferences, and like you can look at this, right, in terms of like the commercials that you've been served during football season. The Big Ten, the SEC, all the power conferences during every football game this season have promoted to you, the SCORE Act, the SCORE Act, the SCORE Act. The SCORE Act has a provision in it that says that college athletes are not employees.
Yeah.
And therefore they cannot collectively bargain because this is just an NIL contract. This is an NIL agreement. This is not an employment contract. Washington is enforcing this contract as an employment contract when it's not one officially. It can't be because they're not employees. And so where do you go from here? You can't have it both ways. You can't say and that is the part where I do think that like Washington and the Big Ten are like, I don't necessarily think they're at fault, but like it is a symptom of a broken system,
Yes,
right?
I
That
agree.
like
Yeah.
we're in this situation in the first place, right? Because it is not possible for Washington and the Big Ten to say you are not an employee. We cannot, provide you with a collective bargaining agreement. We cannot provide you health insurance or whatever else comes with being an employee, right? And then when Damon says, "I know that I signed this contract, but I would like to leave," turn around and say, "No, this contract is enforceable by law. You can't leave." Uh, like those two things can't coexist to me. And maybe from a legal standpoint they can, but it seems like based on the way that this has been covered, like everyone is sort of in agreement that this is a very tenuous legal situation to begin with. And so I don't really think that that's possible. And so I think that even though we're here now, like this is still not over.
No,
This is not because like we talked about, like Demond is going to have to face the media. Demond is going to have to face the community. Demond is going to have to face his other student athletes, the locker room, not even just the locker room, but also like the rest of the student athletes on campus, the student athlete community at the university. He's going to have to face the Seattle community. He's going to have to face the media. He's like, we're going to get a Demond Williams apology tour because we have to. Like, there is no other path forward. And then Jedd is going to have to answer questions about this. The rest of the team is going to have to answer questions about this. Like, this is not over, and it is going to lead to either more problems or is going to have to lead to change. And we have to get one of those two things.
I couldn't agree with you more. We have so much more to get to, but we got to take a break real fast. So, Alex, I do love everything you're saying there. And I think one other thing that really does have to matter in this, and I think it's important to talk about before we get out of here, is what this is going to do for the rest of Washington's roster building. Because now it's not just, the rest of the guys that are on the team that might still be considering entering the transfer portal, but it's all the guys that have been on official visits at UW over the last week or so. Like I know Brandon Huffman reported it. Something I've heard as well is that Oregon running back Jayden Limar is on an official visit to Washington today. What great timing for that, right? Like there's still several pieces of this roster that are not finalized. And how is it going to go over if, let's say a guy that you and I have been talking about a lot behind the scenes that we're both really interested in is New Mexico State defensive lineman Ezra Christensen. Let's say that guy comes in on an official visit tomorrow. He and his camp are going to have questions about that because he's going to say, I know that you guys believe in this quarterback as somebody who can get you to the college football playoff. That's something I want to be a part of my final year of eligibility. But how do I know that I can rely on this guy when 48 hours ago he was in the transfer portal and turning his back on this team? Like these are all legitimate questions that this coaching staff is going to have to face on top of everything else that you just mentioned.
Yeah. And so, Jedd and Pat Chon, the athletic director, have now released a statement also on the UW football Instagram. Jedd's essentially amounts to Damon and I have had a bunch of honest and heartfelt conversations about his present and future. I support him. We're going to work together to repair these relationships and regain the trust of the Husky community. Chon's is about what has transpired has been difficult for all parties involved, is emblematic of many of the current issues in college sports. It's more focused on sort of like, there needs to be change essentially. But that, he appreciates the president and the board of regents and the Big Ten commissioner for their guidance and everything. And they're going to continue to support Demond. So like, I think from that standpoint, like Jedd and Chun both coming out with statements and saying like, look, like, we've had conversations with him. We support him. We're going to work towards repairing these relationships. Like, I think like all of that makes it look like we're, Washington has a unified front here. But like, you and I know that like, that's not how the locker room is going to operate right away. And so again, right, when you talk about, like if Ezra Christensen wants to come on a visit, if Jayden Limar is on a visit right now, right, and like these kids are gonna have questions about like even if it's like okay, like like you guys believe in Demond, I believe in Demond's talent. I think that this team could make a college football playoff run. It's like, well, how do you trust that like that's not going to be a fractured locker room all season?
I agree.
How do you like even if you say like okay, Demond is going to come back, he's going to repair these relationships, he's like he's still going to be a team captain for us, like this, that, or the other, right? It's like how do you trust as someone that has not been at Washington the past 2 seasons and knows Demond Williams? How do you trust that that's actually going to be true? How do you trust that that the locker room isn't going to fall apart when things start going badly? Because let's be honest, right, about the way that football works. The best cure for everything is winning games. The best cure for anything is winning. If Washington goes 11-1 next season with Demond under center, I guarantee you a lot of people, both in the building and outside the building, will quiet down about a lot of these things. Right?
I agree.
Some people still will be mad about it, and rightfully so.
Absolutely. Well, here, hold on. Let me pose another question here, though. I think that one of the things that on top of this is really fair to talk about is, do you think that in terms of, again, it goes back to something we were talking about earlier, where looking at this from an overall perspective, is there a world where, because I mean, it's obviously something that especially people outside of the Washington community you're going to say and look at, it's like, do you think that Washington was sitting here like on its knees begging and pleading to get him back? Because I really don't think that was the case. And I think that plays a factor in all of this, because look at how this situation played out. Within 24 hours of the situation, Bo Prabula was on campus for an official visit. I think that, and I can tell you with, certainty from people I've talked to, that there was a lot of interest in coming in for whether it be quarterbacks in the portal, whether it be just anyone else that might have been like, oh, hey, I haven't, signed with my current school. Maybe that's something I'd want to explore if I do choose to enter the portal. Like those are conversations that have happened. I can tell you that for certain. But like, and is that something where, because like, I also don't think that there's a situation here where like, not to like just say, hey, I stand firm with the university, because as you said, there are certainly things that the university can improve on from this as well. But I don't think there's any situation that I can come to rationally that is like, hey, Pat Chun, Jedd Fisch, those are the guys at fault for this situation, because I really can't find any wrongdoing on their part in this.
Right. Yeah. No, and 100%. Like, I think that like Washington's stance that Demond Williams was going to be their quarterback in 2026 before everything that just happened over the last 20 minutes, right? Like all of that, it is my belief that all of that was more of a legal posture than an emotional one. Because in order to argue that you have suffered severe enough damages to trigger Demond's buyout in his contract and get those damages paid back by a new school, there has to be no choice, right? You can't have another quarterback available to you that you can get, because Washington, whether true or not, right? I'm not making any sort of assertion about whether or not Washington would tamper with a quarterback that's not currently in the portal. But Washington's argument would almost certainly be, well, we have no intention. We've never had any intention of tampering with any quarterback that's not in the portal, because that's what just happened to us. So if we did that, we're hypocrites, right? And so at that point, the only quarterback that's in the portal that has a commensurate resume to Demond Williams is Sam Leavitt from Arizona State, who's on a visit to Tennessee today. His visit to Tennessee got extended until Friday, earlier today. And so if your commitment to saying Demond Williams is going to be our quarterback in 2026, whether he likes it or not, results in you missing out on Sam Leavitt, who's at Tennessee right now, Washington has a much stronger legal argument that they have been caused severe damages if Demond Williams were to leave. Now, the fact that Demond Williams is now staying and they're saying Demond Williams is going to be our quarterback in 2026, I think, again, is a legal posture. Like
I completely agree with you. Yeah. Because you can't. Because there's something else that matters from this on top of the on-field product, right? Like how many people are, because I've seen it. I have had friends who are season ticket holders show me emails from friends of theirs that they split season tickets with, saying because of the transfer portal, because of all these things, because of the disaster this is, I'm canceling my season tickets. I can't support this. I can't be part of this. Like in terms of revenue from, jerseys or whatever else, like it is all a legal posturing standpoint, but it is all a legitimate argument that the university can make with this.
Right. Yeah. And so like you have to take a legal posture of like, yes, if he wants to come back, then we want him back. Because if you say like, oh, actually, well, we don't want him back anymore, and he ends up somewhere else, then again, your argument that you have been caused severe damage is completely nullified. So
Yeah.
so if he wants to come back, you have to take him back. That said, Washington very clearly operated as if they were prepared for Damon Williams to leave. Like you mentioned, Bo Prabula was on campus within 24 hours. There were multiple other visitors that we heard rumblings about. There was, I had heard a rumor that Levitt was planning on coming to visit after he finished his Tennessee visit at
I
that
heard
time.
that too.
Like there are like so many other quarterbacks in the portal and some not in the portal that reached out of their own volition and said like, hey, like now that you guys have an opening, like I would potentially be interested, right? And so like Washington was moving as if they were not going to have Damon Williams next season. I don't think this is a situation where they dragged Damon back to the negotiating table and said, please, 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 you have to come back. Like I think that Damon probably came back with his tail between his legs a little bit and said like, I messed up. Like,
I think
so, like,
I think that some of the statements show that too.
Right, 100%. Yeah.
Oh no! If you feel something else, it's about time to wrap up.
Oh no! So like, yeah. So like, I think there is a middle ground here, right? And like like this is a 19, 20-year-old kid, and I get that like some people are not going to be willing to take that excuse, right? Because like he's eligible to vote, he's eligible to be drafted into the military. Like he's an adult, right? He's an adult. He's capable of making his own decisions. But I think that pretty clearly, right, based on the fact that his agency dropped him, his agency doesn't seem like they were aware of any of this happening, over the last 48 hours. Like, I think that it is pretty clear that Damon Williams or somebody close to him received some very, very, very bad advice about how to handle the situation. And I would say that like now that he is back, there's obviously a ton of work that he is going to have to do to repair those relationships with his teammates in the locker room, the community at the University of Washington, the community in the greater Seattle area. There's a ton of work that he is going to have to do, and I'm sure that Jedd Fisch and Pat Chun have made that abundantly clear to him.
Yeah.
And now it is time to move forward, right? And like there is a middle ground as far as his on-field play as well, right? Where like people during the 2025 season were saying like Damon Williams is a Heisman candidate, Damon Williams is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think that's clear that he is viewed that way based on the fact that this situation is happening in the first place. But there is also plenty of room for improvement for Damon Williams on the field, and I think that that is the part that people have been more exposed to on social media after Damon announced that he was going to leave, is because people are always going to focus on the positives when you're here and the negatives when you're gone, right? And so that is the part that people have seen more and more of. And so like there is plenty of room for Damon Williams to improve on the field. But again, right, like it's football. If you win games, like a lot of things will be band-aided by that. And so whether or not they do that, like we have yet to see, right? And like how this all shakes out, how this whole thing like plays out from here, like we don't know. We didn't know that any of this was going to happen when we got on the air. And here we are 38 minutes later and suddenly Damon Williams is confirmed coming back, right? And so like we don't know what happens from here, but like it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for everybody.
I love where you're going with that, and I appreciate all that. I want to echo that sentiment with 3 words: wait and see, because there are a lot of things that could happen from this point on. And I just want to echo something else that our good buddy Jake Butt said on this show yesterday, where when you are a 19, 20-year-old kid, if someone is dangling as reportedly as much as $2 million more in your face, of course, it's something that is going to cross your mind, and these things are going to happen. That doesn't excuse the situation by any stretch of the imagination. Let me be abundantly clear about that. But I think that this is something where I'm going to wait and see on what comes next, because that's just what college football is now. And there's so many different things that can happen and will happen from this point on. Let's see which avenue this all goes down, because it's all there's so many possibilities here, and who knows what this is going to look like even next week, next Thursday, because this is all just changing so fast. We didn't think we were going to be in these chairs talking about this 48 hours ago. And yet here we are. This has been such a long, exhausting couple of days, but hopefully this has just come to an end. I think that's what we all want from this more than anything, whatever the destination was going to be, whatever the result was going to be. And the fact that we're here now, I'm just going to take a sigh of relief in advance because there's still writing to do on both of our parts, but this is starting to come to a close. And I don't think either of us or anyone in the fan base could be happier that at least that part is in the past at this point. Alex, thank you so much for being here. To all our everydayers out there, make sure to go give him a follow as he does tremendous work over with me at Huskies Wire and is just a very valued member of the UW beat. And as always, if you like what we have to offer here on Locked On Huskies, please make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel with new content every single day. So please make sure to click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new show. Plus, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please give us a 5-star review as it does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.